You're tuned into Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's foremost location for the most honest, inspiring insight and opinion on the world of sports. Now, once again, here's the man of the hour, After Hours. Your host, KJ Green.
On we go in the Hoodwood for the middle of July. And like I said before I mentioned about where the All-Star Game was going to be at next year, the All-Star Game is going to be in Cleveland for a record-breaking fifth time, I believe it is. It's hard to believe that Cleveland has actually hosted the most All-Star Games. Actually broke a tie with Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Cincinnati for the number of All-Star Games being played at. But let's take a look at the World Cup, which wrapped up on Sunday. France playing an absolutely flawless game, winning 4-2. And yes, I knocked the French for playing a boring game. I'm sorry. The game I watched against, the semifinal game I watched against Belgium was a snoozer. But they played forward, really forward against the Croatians, running and gunning and winning. Only their second World Cup to go along with the one that they won 20 years ago. The funny thing about it is the young striker Mbappe, who scored late in the game to more or less wrap the game up, became only the second teenager to score in a World Cup final, joining the illustrious Pelé, who turned the trick 60 years ago as a teenager for Brazil. But Mbappe wasn't even born the last time that France won the World Cup in 1998. That was actually Minnesota when they won the World Cup, and was thinking, France winning the World Cup? But the World Cup basically came off without a hitch and without U.S. participation, had very, very strong ratings. Now, the next quadrennial, we'll see how the World Cup in Qatar, which I'm thinking it's probably going to be an unmitigated disaster, because I'm thinking you're going to have all these soccer matches out in the middle of the desert, right? And then in 2026, it'll be back in North America, a joint effort between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, which, given the politics of the day, which will be really, really interesting to see how they're going to pull that off, going between the different countries. But that's neither here nor there, because the World Cup is finished. And one has to wonder, is the World Cup, now the World Cup is going to be is done, is soccer really going to gain a foothold in the United States? I mean, everybody's going to go back to their provincial leagues, La Liga in Spain, the Bundesliga in Germany, the Premier League in Great Britain. But one has to wonder if soccer is going to grow any more than a niche sport in the United States. And here's a theory that I just thought of, I've kind of float to you, with the ever fluid situations in football, the way they're changing the rules, the way they're changing a lot of the way the game is played. One has to wonder if the popularity of the so-called America's pastime, America's game in football, if that may be supplanted by the time the World Cup gets ready to kick off in 8 years, if soccer might supplant football as a popular sport in America. You say never. 8 years ago, a lot of things that have happened, many people didn't think were going to happen, but have happened. I mean, if you had told me 8 years ago that Cincinnati was going to have a Major League Soccer franchise, I'd have laughed in your face. Cincinnati has a Major League Soccer team coming online next year. A lot of things can happen in a short amount of time, and 8 years is almost an eternity. Be interesting to see what will happen with soccer. Oh, and I have to give a little bit of another dig to England, who couldn't even win the third place game. They got shut out 2-0 by Belgium in the third place game. Way to go, England. You guys in soccer. Whatever, man. Anyway, let's move to the Fat Dap and Head Slap. The Fat Dap of the week is going to go to Veteran Major League Baseball Tim Kirkjian, who got a nice ringing hit in the celebrity softball game on Monday before the All-Star game, the home run derby. Old guy in my rear end. I don't care if he was an old guy playing in a celebrity game. He showed himself, handled the bat well, and got a nice solid hit. He shows he can swing the bat. You got to give Phat dap to him. It gives hope for old guys all over the place that they may still be able to get hits here and there. Now, the head slap I wanted to give to Shaq. He jumped into the celebrity softball game I just mentioned, trying to be Mr. Big Shot, and struck out. A man that's 7'2" should not have a baseball bat in his hand. He looked silly, looked foolish, and he looked really foolish in the game. A lot of the pro players in this softball game, pro baseball and basketball players alike, look pretty bad. Andre Dawson taking one off the head, trying to catch a foul pop-up. The pro players just look bad in that. But the head slap I really want to give is to Josh Hart. Now, who is that, you say? He won the NBA Summer League MVP. You're thinking, well, why am I giving him a head slap? Well, the head slap is because he got 2 technicals in the Summer League title game against the Blazers and got run out. 2 technicals, and no matter what game you're in, what league you're in, if you get 2 technicals, you're going to be shown the door. Now, it's true, the Blazers were blowing the Lakers out on their way to winning the Summer League title. They won pretty convincingly. But how you going to act like that and get 2 techs, be the newly crowned MVP? I mean, I know, granted, it was only like 6 or 7 games in the season. You know, the round robin, the 5 games, and then the playoffs, single elimination. But still, how are you going to be the MVP of a league and get run out of the title game? Come on, man. Let's take a time out. I'll be back with the final word from the Wood in just a moment.
You're tuned in to Sports from the Hoodwood, the internet's premier location for no-nonsense commentary, insight, and opinion on the world of sports. Here now, the man with 100% certified fresh take, your host, KJ Green.
And down the stretch we come in the Hoodwood. I thank you so much for joining me this week. I try to put out the show every week. It usually comes out on Thursday. Depending on how my production schedule works, depending on how a lot of things work, I usually try to get it out on Thursdays. There's a plethora of venues that you can pick up the show on. Twitter, Google, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, you name it, I'm there. And if you can't find me, send me a letter. The email is kjgreen@blackbanditproductions.com. I'll repeat that here at the end of the show when we wrap it up. Now for the final word from the Wood. Every time about this time of the year, the ESPY Awards are on, and it's hard to believe that it's the 25th year for this more or less made-up awards show. Now, while I've never been one for award shows and didn't watch it this year as usual, I do have a soft spot for this year's Arthur Ashe Award recipient. This year's award winner was Jim Kelly, the NFL Hall of Fame quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, has bravely fought cancer and has been an eloquent and passionate spokesman for cancer research over the last few years. He made a passionate, eloquent speech, though no speech at the ESPYs will ever rival the legendary Don't Ever Give Up speech by the legendary Jim Valvano, who in his last public appearance kicked off the V Foundation. And that speech in itself has a very tender place in my heart. Jim Valvano gave that speech on March 4th, 1993. It was actually a day after my grandmother passed. And watching that speech, watching the bravery that Valvano had to get on the stage and make such a passionate speech so soon after my grandmother had passed, someone who was very, very near and dear to me, inspired me about going for one's dreams and going all out and never, settling for second best. So that's a speech that's always meant something to me. And as someone who has lost a number of dear friends to this scourge, I'm one that hopes and prays for a cure for this awful disease. Cancer took my college sweetheart at age 39. It took one of my broadcasting school roommates at 35. Cancer took one of my old school homies at just 42. Now, I'm not one for stumping, and I can't say it, but I can't say it enough. Get yourself tested for the different variations of cancer. Gentlemen, get colon cancer screenings, prostate cancer screenings for the gentlemen, colon cancer screenings for everyone, breast cancer screenings for the ladies. Because testing, more often than not, can head the disease off. And prevention and early detection sometimes can be the critical factor. Donate to causes that lead the fight in cancer researches. And lastly, if you know someone who is fighting this awful disease, be a go-to for them. Be a sounding board. Chauffeur them to a doctor's appointment. Give them a call on the regular and say, hey, is there anything that you need from me? Be a shoulder to lean on and to cry on. Because people need that when they're fighting the fight against cancer. And that's no joke. That's the final word from the Wood. Well, with the music coming up in the background, more or less, you know that means your time in the Hoodwood is just about done. Now, thank you for your visit. Now, the email is at kjgreen@blackbanditproductions.com. Send me emails to show thoughts, ideas on topics, praise, and criticism. I read every email, and I take them all to heart. I appreciate you sending me emails. Now, you can catch the podcast weekly on a number of outlets. On Facebook at Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises, on Spreaker, as well as Spotify, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and in Sports from the Hoodwood, and Twitter at KJGreen20. So that's all. Until next week from the Hoodwood, fellow sports fans, I'm KJ Green, 30.
Sports from the Hoodwood
is a Black Bandit Productions and Enterprises presentation
of a 551 Audio and Films production.